connection will be good, and I will be able to talk great with my guest, with international coach Vladimir Bosnjak. We will talk about basketball preparation in COVID time. In some countries, the season started and it is going, but in some countries, the season stopped or just now will started. And some players didn't found the club, they must work on themselves, and the coaches must work with their players if the season is not going. And I would love to encourage you to write your questions. Feel free yourself to ask from us. We were just waiting for our guest, and we will start immediately our talking. Let's say, for example, in this summer, I was working with some talented Indian players too, because through on technological environments, very easy to give instructions for the players with who you are working individually, but of course you can make a group training too, so everything is possible. So it just can't happen that in some countries the basketball is not going and everybody stops, so you must to work something. And about this, Vladimir Bosnjak will be a great expert who will share his knowledge. And after this live 1 or 2 days, I will little edit it and to put some extra videos so you can check everything about what we will talking.
Hey, Vladimir.
Nažalost,
Hi.
unfortunately, it's over the phone. I'm still having a new. Let me try to see. Can I go here on? Okay, at least we are here on a mobile phone. If something goes well, you know. I'm still having a new. Let me try to see. Can I go here? Can you see me now on the?
Yes, of course. Yes, of course. We are online, so everything is fine. So we can start. We can start our talk. I mentioned already that our topic will be basketball preparation in COVID time, and that we will share our knowledge about it, and that we would love to help for players and coaches, because in some countries season is going, but in some countries season stopped or just now will start, and players must to work with themselves during the season. So we can start about to talk this, and I mentioned that with technological environment it's very easy to give instructions for our players. Can you please share what is your opinion about warming up, stretching? Let's start with this, and after to go for the drills, for example, and some physical practices.
Thank you very much, Hunor. Since you gave me this assignment, I also have some clinics in Central Asia later on, alive clinics where I would go and travel, and I will tell you more about that when we finish our conversations. But what I try to explain you is I would also give you some numbers, tests, what players and coaches can know, for example, in order to be ready for the basketball in the United States, for the college ball, high school, and even for the NBA, if you're doing on your own. They have certain numbers, certain repetitions for 1 minute, 2 minutes, for 1 mile, for one suicide, for several times of running baseline to baseline. Those kind of things we need to give to players so players can know, and if they're on their own and they have only one guy who is counting their time or their repetitions, they know do they make that or they don't. But meanwhile, I would like to tell you this, that when we talk about modern basketball today, people usually make mistake and they live in that previous area where we were doing old-fashioned basketball that for example, you have to start first with the warm-up, or you have to start first with the stretch. Unfortunately, science didn't improve that much, and Professor Ratomir Vasovic, famous professor from the School of Physical Education in Belgrade, Dusan Dudevkovic, strength coach in Partizan Belgrade, was telling me that until today, you never know, is it right, the proper way, or is it wrong way that you start first with a stretch or you start first with a warm-up? Doesn't matter. The most important is that you do the things which players are more comfortable with. Then when you do stretch, that has to be very good and very technically appropriate way of doing the things. And obviously, when you do the warm-up, you have to do with a good breathing, with a good moving of the elbows, of the knees, of the toes and heels. And in that way, when we talk about all those things, we have to know that there is some exception. Jason Kidd never stretched in his life. I have some American players who didn't like any stretch, and they were good. But unfortunately, majority of players need a good stretching. And also, after you finish the practice, if practice was so difficult or anyway, you have to teach yourself that you have to do good post-workout stretch. However, in our life, we have the problem that we don't have always fitness coach. In those days, last month, we lost one great fitness coach, Coach Petronije Pera Zimonjic, who was also Red Star, Partizan, strength coach. He was my coach in Basketball Club Belgrade when I was a junior, and he was later when I was a junior coach, coach of the senior team, fitness coach. And amazingly, I found out that good conditioning coach usually is not a coach who knows theoretically the best knowledge, but like your mom or my mom, when they make some good dish in the kitchen, they know doesn't matter how meal is getting to be warm up or boiled or even burn off, they know to make the dish well when she brings on the table. You shouldn't have a doubt, is that good or bad, you would eat all. So, good coaches know to make a dosage. But in order to make a dosage, you first have to know the rules. You have to know how much fast players have to be. You have to know how much certain weights they can lift. And unfortunately, in many countries you and me work, we don't have beautiful conditions. Sometimes because of the lockdowns, you don't have any possibility to get in a weight room, to get in a gym. Sometimes if you're a foreigner, you, for example, cannot get in some facility practice field, you cannot get in a gym, and tomorrow when you leave, you see that the local guy or guy from the region easily got in that weight room and have a practice. But nobody, we have the parents who love us, our kids, our wives, and that's all, you know, but they're not in a management of the club or the national team you coach. So you have to adjust to give to the players proper exercises, and there are two ways. As I was telling you before, that guy Jim Boylan from NBA, defensive coordinator, he is teaching us there are three ways of teaching today, or three ways. First way is by the talk. As you see, I have, as Coach Brown says for himself, mouth diarrhea. You know, I talk too much, but young people don't like talk. They like to see action. Then you have a touch. You bring the player. You remember those clinics with Bob Knight. He grabbed the player for the jersey, bring him here, push him there. Doesn't work that way also. You know, you can easily lose the contract if you show aggressive or some that kind of tough attitude. So there is a third way, which is the best way. Not talk, but the walk, by the vision, eye vision. One picture says more than 1,000 words. Players like to see that. Of course, the best thing when you teach players to run or to do technically proper things, to bring good demonstrators. Now, who? If there are no names and players don't work with you, and sometimes they're not motivated to work with you because they have other things to do in their lives, and it's a COVID situation, restriction of the physical contacts, of the social contacts. What players have to do? They have to see what you send them and to repeat. I found out something amazingly. If they see some NBA coaches or NBA players demonstrate and show the exercise, they accept that and do that like that they are NBA players, which helps you. because you want them, you don't care, does he listen you more or coach Alan Stein from NBA fitness physical coach. You want them to be quick, fast, movable, and in a good shape, so tomorrow when you have a game, you don't lose and nobody doubt your knowledge and you remain in a contract. As we know, that's as simple as that. So I was sending to you first 3 exercises with the so-called no-name guys who are doing excellently their job. They're students of the physical education school in Belgrade, as you know, one of the best school in the world for the physical education, where students have a tough time to get rolled in. They cannot just become students, they have to pass so many physical tests about their endurance and shape. And my fitness coach, I was lucky enough to have coach Zunik, Srbaljub Zunik, great guy who is teaching them, and he took the best students to get prepared for the School of Physical Education. And sometimes he has 50 to 100 new coming guys, boys and girls each year. And you know what? It's amazing how those guys do beautiful exercises, stretching, forming the body line, pose stretching, and all those exercises to move their feet to get warm for the practice. On the other hand, I sent you some warm-up and stretching drills for those people who like to watch NBA, like you and me, who are psychos enough to watch night over night, evening over evening, those games, those practices. And I'm very much happy to tell you that in my business, it helped me so much when they see some American coach is showing and preparing the exercise. Players do that with a bigger passion. So sorry, this was my answer at the beginning. And later on, if you have any question, please stop me and ask me whatsoever. I did send you those 3 no-name guys exercise, which they do in the best proper way technically. And we have another exercises from the Allenstein and other guys. So our colleagues can compare and can use and can give to the players and their colleagues to do that on their own if by COVID they're forbidden in certain time to do preparation with them.
Yes, and we are waiting from our followers and watchers too to ask from us. And I would love to say for you that I had the same thing what you said for me, that I had some American players who didn't want to have stretching. And I had sometimes American players that was first time I saw, because in Serbia I learned that first temperature of the body must to increase with 1 Celsius, and after we can do stretching. And the American players did the stretching and after the warm-up. And you mentioned like that the touching is not the best. And let's say that I want to say for other coaches, when I worked in West Europe, I had a problem that I touched the players when I showed them how they need something to do. And on the next day, the president of the club is saying for me, Hunor, I know that you are coming from the Balkan, but you can't touch the players. So what you said is a very good way that if demonstrating, and how you said is very interesting to bring on the video recorder, for example, or a laptop, and to watch how is showing one NBA player, because maybe like we coaches, we will say the same thing, but maybe you are right that they will accept before from them like from us.
As you know, Wi-Fi or internet today is the best solution for all problems. If you have a good Wi-Fi, you can, before the practice, show them on a laptop or even on your mobile phone, on Android. You can show them some game scouting. You can show them some moves in technical, how to say, presentation, how they should do. You can show them many other things, including the stretching and warm-ups. And also, you can show them how they do some exercise. I sent you that 6 explosive drill warm-up exercise from Alan Stein. In my opinion, until my last day of coaching, and I hope at least 10 more years I can coach one way or the other, like a head coach, like advisor, like a youth coach. I would like at least 10 more years to stay in this business, and I hope God would give me the strength for that. I would always do this exercise even when I have a basketball practice with the ball. I would give them to do because you have over there good warm-up for each muscle, especially for the lower body and for the legs. I always encourage you, and you would later on show them that. I'm sure whenever you have a time, give them those 6 exercises, you will not go wrong. After that, they can run the sprint, they can jump. As you know, Coach Vlada Koprivica are famous, and maybe at this moment, maybe the most famous fitness coach in Serbia and in the Balkan, and everybody says in the EuroLeague, you don't have better teacher and theoretic educator like his coach Koprivica. He was always telling me the best warm-up for the sprints is jump. Of course, you have to do warm-up and stretch, but when you give them some jumps, later on they run much faster because of explosiveness. As you know, in many countries, when I was in China, I will never forget that, they want to do weight room. I was, because I saw that they don't know anything about weightlifting, about power, I took the charge also for that. So they brought them to the football field. I say, why? We have a weight room inside, indoor. They say, but first we do the Cooper test. I say, Cooper test? You do first running, then after that you want them to do weight room. They say, so what? At that time, I had the privilege to be in a club of basketball where football team was coaching Ljubiša Tumbaković, our famous, one of the best football coaches we ever had. He was laughing when I told him what they asked. They want to do power after they do running for the time, running 2 miles. And that was so ridiculous. But I did explain them that if they want to get stronger, they cannot just use the aerobic or anaerobic drills and after that get to the weight room. For the weight room, they have to be fresh, not tired, and ready and warmed. So when they do weightlifting power, after a few weeks or few months, they're really jeopardy for the opponents. The weight room is not jeopardy for their body, for their health. So those kind of things we can always do, but you know, it's a painful education because many people don't like to hear new knowledge. Nevertheless, I would like first to go with some numbers. You have a drills I did send so we can go through them. But when we work with them, not only fitness, strength and power, not only sit-ups, push-ups, let's say that we don't have any dumbbells, any plates, any bars. We basically have to show them exercises where they can keep their body in a game shape and in a tonus, as they say, that their body is not behind the events, that is ready for events. Nevertheless, I would like to tell you that in the United States of America, where I was assistant coach, sometimes they give to assistant coaches exercises that assistant coach has to do, and that was 25 years ago and more, to be a strength coaches. They very simply don't have too much fitness coaches around. So in the States, it's a custom. Do you have a 6 weeks, which is 42 days, or do you have a 4 weeks, which is 28 days for preparation, or 30? You see, today we find out that NBA released their players for only 5 weeks, 35 days. So it's not by any, how to say, preparation or anybody's, I don't know, illusion, this is good, this is bad. When you want to play for national team and you're under the contract of NBA, you have 35 days, only 35 days. You cannot be more than that involved. Now they can even reduce that because of the many things, but to do those, let's say I would use this coaching board from our Serbian Coaching Association, we need to know following things. If you want to give them 3 miles to run, They have to run on a time, and time is 20 minutes. So for 3 miles, they have to run 20 minutes. In the United States, they like to give them always this kind of exercise at the end of the week. They do 5 working days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So on Friday, they give them some kind of the fitness workouts when they don't have a ball workouts, and they give them always, after they warm up and stretch them, they give them exactly this. They give them time to run certain distance. They start 1 or 2 weeks each Friday, which is only 1 exercise per week. They give them the long run for the restricted time. Time in this case is 20 minutes for the 3 miles. 3 miles in this case would be, I would say 1 mile is 1.6 kilometers. So that's almost 5 kilometers, 4.8 miles. Meanwhile, as time goes on, next week or 2 weeks from that time, you can always give them on Friday now 2 miles. 2 miles is time 12 minutes. So if you want to run 2 miles, which is, I would say, 8 laps, which is 3.2 kilometers, they run that for the 12 minutes. And I think that there is nobody in the world of physical education who doesn't know the Cooper test and doesn't know that for the Cooper test, you have to have 12 miles flat, which means 12:00 to make in order to be ready for the season. Many times, coaches were organizing in a indoor facility this kind of exercises, but I think it's very bad. They need to go out, and when they have chance to breathe and use the oxygen, when it's the beginning of the spring or just a light end of the summer and early beginning of the fall, you should take them out, especially in areas such as our country, Serbia, and those countries in the region which are south part, Greece, Macedonia, Bulgaria, over there, Turkey, South Italy, Mediterranean countries, where you have 4 seasons. It's very good for organism to go out, breathe the oxygen, and run outside. Coach Koperica is teaching us it's excellent that you have opportunity to clean your lungs. Fortunately, we know that every country doesn't end on the south. We have many northern countries. I am positive that in Hungary, Slovakia, now Poland, northern more, and especially Baltic countries, summer ends much sooner, fall comes much sooner, and spring comes a little later. So March in Serbia is not like a March in Lithuania. There were some coaches who tried to do copy-paste, and some of their players end up in a hospital because they had the problem with the bronchitis, with the flu, with the cold. So in order to get sick, you have to know what is the temperature outside. If it's a temperature over 16, 17 degrees, if it's a sunshine out, they should run. That's excellent substitution for all those bad things happen to our body during the year. So we have 2 miles. When we talk about Cooper test, we have to know that Cooper, like a test, is not a Bible, it's not Quran, it's not some Zen Buddhism text. Also, it's invented by the major, later on Colonel Cooper, therefore they call that Cooper test. That guy was Canadian, and he did that for his Navy SEAL soldiers. Those guys who are ready to do those commandos operation. So for the military purposes, he made this Cooper test. But that Cooper became the great measure for all those tests we have today in sport. especially when we don't have just for the track and field, but for the football, basketball. In China, they sometimes like goalkeepers to bring to the testing area, and they have to run Cooper test even if goalkeeper doesn't run more than 300-400 meters for his football match. But people sometimes do the silly things, and still they have a job, they make money. So we should be very much union to our other colleagues, coaches, and tell them that they have to meet those kind of the challenges. If you want to go forward, after every Friday you don't make tests for the time, you have a Saturday like after 24 hours, like a makeup day, and Sunday every week has to have one off day in the preparation. And also, when you have a season, you have to give them in the 7 days, 1 day off. When I was a coach, that was science fiction. Many times you have game after game, practice after practice. If you lose the game, another day practice. Now, we moved from the one stage to another. People don't like injuries, and you have to give them 24 hours of break. Meanwhile, after a while, you can go for the 1 mile. That's the so-called Mini Cooper. There is also 1.5 mile test, but I would go immediately to the 1 mile because I know that time is running out of course to everybody, out of clock to any coach. So 5 minutes, 30 seconds, it's basically for 1 mile appropriate time. Since now we are getting to the shorter time, we have to see regular Cooper and a Maxi Cooper, point guard, shooting guard, center has to have the same time. But here on the 1 mile, we have situation. If you're over 110 kilos, 115, 120, or over 245 pounds, you have 5 minutes, 45 seconds, okay, to make 4 laps, which is a 1 mile. And this is the easiest way because over there you already have, how do we call that, more sprint exercise. In a 2 miles run, you have more aerobic with anaerobic things. In a 3 miles run, more aerobic than anaerobic things. But in a 1 mile, it's anaerobic more so, which basketball was called game. 15, 20 years ago, basketball was anaerobic game at that time. Today, basketball is not called like that. Basketball is jumping and sprinting, running sport. So in this game, you have to jump, you have to move forward, you have to move backward, you have to slide right and left, and that kind of game you play. That name, I was talking to some modern fitness coaches, and they say, if you go outside, you don't even always to give them 1 mile. You can give them 1 lap, 400 meters. 400 meters today, 400 meters, you have to run for the 1 minute or below. You would be amazed how many times when you get on a track and field, you see people tall and big like Shaquille O'Neal who run suicide drill, who run some 100 meters much faster than many guards. Very simply, doesn't matter how tall and how big you are. If you have a good quickness, if you move with your feet well, and you have a long step, you can go better than the guards. So, you know, this kind of things I wanted first to share when we talk about track and field. I didn't write that, I can rewrite later on, but I wanted to expose these numbers directly when we talk. So when we have preparation and we don't get a good physical fitness coach, or when we cannot practice with the players, we can just do the things part-time, which means send them the text and send them the program so they have to do on their own. In that name, I would certainly go with these numbers. When I was an assistant coach in a college sport in the United States, I see my friend Dean Murray is watching us, and to him and to Philip, I say hi. When I was doing those kind of things, I always got the numbers from our head coach, and it was always same story. 1 mile is 5 minutes, 30 seconds. For somebody who is 245 pounds and below, for somebody who is 245 pounds and above is 5 minutes, 45 seconds. And they have to make that. I remember those days, and those kind of things were always good help for me. So when we don't have any other opportunity, when we send to the players to do on their own, we have to give them the time. They shouldn't do, and it's very difficult to give them stairs, to give them hurdles, to give them some things when they don't have an expert with them who would give them break. They still have to be ready. They have to come in a good shape to the ball practice. In order to avoid any difficulties, we need to give them this kind of things. Numbers, time, repetitions. I would also move forward and say that when we do other things, I remember Coach Tabby Smith, Coach Gene Caddy from Purdue, they used to like to give to players some kind of the exercises which are more now anaerobic sprints, but many repetitions with a time. In a second, I would go also with the numbers so people can have a division. If you're a junior, under 18, under 16, under 17 years old coach, if you're a women or man coach in some programs where you don't get too much help, you have to be your own fitness coach, your own nutritionist, your own manager, team manager, and we know who are working in those kind of the clubs or national teams, we have to have support only by ourselves. So, you know that. We have twice per week when you do fitness exercises, and I gave some drills which you would show to our friends later on. I have also those 7 lines drill. 7 lines is coast to coast, which means from one baseline to another. When you go from this hoop to this hoop, that's a 1 time. Back is 2, 3, 4, 7. 7 times. You do this exercise twice in a practice, and you have 7 lines. For big people, 44 seconds. For the guards or shorter guys, you have that for the 42 seconds. So twice per week, let's say Monday, Wednesday, 2 times repetitions. You have 7 lines. First week, those 2 times would be 44 for the big guys, 42 seconds for the guards. Then, next week, you can do 40 seconds for the guards, 42 seconds for the big guys. 7 lines. Another third week, you can go 38 seconds for the guards, 40 seconds for the big guys. Heavy guys, I would say, 240 pounds and more. Then last week, you can move to the 7 lines, 36 seconds, and 38 seconds would be for the big guys. So that's 4 weeks. Sometimes it's not going to go smooth. Maybe you would need to have those old numbers. For example, if they don't move well from the 40 to 42 seconds, you have to repeat next week 2 more times old time. Usually from 42 seconds, I can move easily to 40 seconds next week. But from the 40 seconds to the 38 seconds, and from the 38 seconds especially to 36 seconds, or for the big guys, from the 40 seconds to 38 seconds, It's a pain in the neck. So you sometimes see the 2 weeks to do same time and same numbers exercise in order to move on. Definitely, definitely, I would not do that more than 2 times practice, because that's a big attack for the heart, for the lungs, for the body, for the legs, for everything. Players don't feel good when they run this, when they're preparing themselves. But if they do that in an indoor, it's enough time for them to run fast, to do everything what they need to do. And of course, next day, practice should be different than this. You cannot increase the exercises. They need to have some kind of the physical rest. This kind of thing is very simple, but I would give us some other, how to say, they can do that on themselves. They can do that without the coach. They can bring their brother, their friend, their girlfriend, their uncle, father, whoever would like to help them, their coach of physical education in their former high school. They can go there and do it. As I say, you can go outside and for one lap, 400 meters, you can do 1 minute and less. Or you can do this kind of exercise with the back and forth running. But the most important thing is that you develop that between the 4 and 6 weeks. And at the end of the last practice, they should run guards between 36 to 38 seconds. Of course, you don't have always same age players. Sometimes they're old and they're not fast enough, like 10 years ago when they were young. Sometimes they're young, but they're not that experienced. You know, sometimes Coach Dean knows, sometimes you have a young player, you would like to play with him, but people from management come and say, please give chance to that older guy. He is like a son to us. He is with us all those last 10, 15 years in a time of difficulties. So, you know, you have to have the full bag of the tricks. And you cannot just be like a sergeant in the army and go like this. You sometimes have right and left to go to make them ready, but when 40 minutes of game come, or 48 if you're an NBA player, or in CBA, in China's Division I league, you play 48 minutes, 4 quarter, 12 minutes each. You have to be ready as much as you could. So I would finish with the following things. In order to run suicide drills, which is the oldest punishment exercise I ever saw in my life. I was 15 years old when I started to play basketball, and maybe second practice I had to run the suicide. So, you know, this is the mother for all drills. In my opinion, if I would be of any usage, I would always say for women, from 30 to 32 seconds, you have to do one suicide. But when I was a young player, I ran slow, and coach is screaming and yelling and saying, come on, Vladimir, go faster. I know you can do it. Don't be sorry about other things. And he doesn't give me a break when I finish 31 or 32 seconds, and he says, go again. So suddenly I start to run faster and faster. Then he said, you see, now you ran 29 seconds. A long time I didn't understand how can I run second time faster than first time. Then I found out coaches are a little bit cheating on us. When they see that we are short, they give us punishment, but it was never, it's not against physiology. You cannot run slow unless you don't want to run as fast as you can. Previous exercise, and after that, without any break, that means that either way, you were cheating on somebody who was watching your stopwatch, he was cheating on your record. In my opinion, if you run 30 seconds like a guy, that's very much okay, but there are some players who can run 29, 28, and some, and they're really fast, they can run 27 seconds. The legend is that Michael Jordan was running suicide drill 23 seconds. I never see him run that, but many people in the States told me, yes, he could do it. He was that good. What I saw Shaquille O'Neal running 27 seconds. He really was that fast, even if he was a guard. There were some guards who, of course, didn't like to run suicide drills. We had one guy, he had a play of the week last week when he was penetrating and he was throwing the ball behind the back and shooting and scoring. He played in Italy. He is one of the best shooting point guards we ever had. I don't want to mention his name. He was even playing NBA. He played for a national team. But when he was in FMP, under 15, under 16 years old guy, he was always running suicide drill with big guys. Very simply, he was so talented, but he didn't like to run. We have to know, in our history of sport, we have great players who love to do extra exercises, and we have some talented players who don't like to run, who don't like to do as best as they can, but also one group or the other can be very much useful in particular time. We have to have our players always physically ready, and we have to find the way how to manage. Meanwhile, I did send you all those, I would say, ordinary things you can do 4, 5 times per week. You can a little bit interchange the exercises, and I sent you how they do with the no-name guys who are in a great shape, and how they do, particularly basketball players who try to remain in shape. The most important thing, before any weight room exercises, you have to do tests. You have to see your squat, you have to see your upper body, which is a bench press result. Then you have to start with the smaller weights and not so difficult number of repetitions that you don't hurt yourself. If you hurt your player or if he hurts himself, that's also tragedy for us. We will lose the guy for the following weeks and months. We need full roster. We need a full unit ready for the battle. That's basically what I was willing to talk a little bit with you. If you have any question, please ask me.
Yes, I will now ask from you. Just to make a summary that very important that when we not have a fitness coach, how you said we must to get the rules, what are the rules, but then is coming, what are the weather conditions, how many trainings we have, when is starting the league, and very important to give enough break for our players, not to be injured, and how you said in Serbia when I was a young player, when we had bad result, then next day we get, I don't know, that kind of training that almost we died, or without break is coming the next match, what is very bad. And that is why I would love to ask from you that what kind of preventive practices or drills you are doing with your players. From Nenad Trunic, for example, I learned to make a lot of jumps because you mentioned like that basketball is mixture of sprints and jumps. And from him, I learned that we need to make jumps forward, backward, zigzag from the side, and to make some mixture that with sprints or this can be, for example, a shooting drill too. But before this, we are doing so physical preparation. We can put on some kind of shooting practice too. So that I would love to ask to share with us what kind of preventive practices you are doing with your players to not to be injured if you are pushing them a lot.
First of all, that would be very good that we have Nenad Trunic to coach our players because he is a former legendary point guard and he is a great man and I like him a lot and he has a very good talented son who is also a good player, now I think playing in Italy. So that's excellent that we have good experts. But sometimes we have to wrestle and to fight by ourselves. When even your assistants don't want to help you or will rather dishelp you. So in that name, I would always like to do the things such as good warm-up, good stretch, especially those hamstring thing. Sometimes you have to do that every practice because those connections between the stomach and between the quadriceps are always missing link with our players. Players like to do legs if they have a strong leg. You know, like us, students. If you like chemistry, you would have an A+ in chemistry. Doesn't mean that you would like the history. If you like history, like I was, you don't like that much. My father was a doctor of chemistry, but I didn't like chemistry. I didn't like physics. I didn't like those science. I didn't like that. So what you have to do, you have to push them to do all those drills, which are connecting the upper body and the low body. As you know, chain can be the strongest, but in one link is the weak. The chain will be broken on that place. For example, groaning, hamstring are things between your back, between your quadriceps, between your stomach. All of us, when we were young, we like to do upper body stomach. How many of us are doing those low stomach drills? And those low stomach drills are connected with the groinings. So we need to always enter this kind of the exercises. And for example, whatever you think that you have to pay the most attention after stretch, after warm-up, you have to do first thing on the practice. You cannot leave that for the end. Many times, I remember, I was doing the suicide drills at the end of the practice when I was a player. And when I became a coach, you know, it's routine for your brain. You also start to do that. Then one colleague asked me, why you do this? You try to develop the shape? I said, no, I want them now to be faster. So why you do that at the end of the practice? Do that at the beginning. After you stretch them, do the sprints at the beginning. When you do tactique, 5-on-5, you want to teach them to make a good pick and roll game or good transition game. You do the thing at the beginning when they're focused, when they're the most fresh, when they're not tired. When you give them to do that when they're tired, they will do that with the half speed, with the less focus, and they can also, A, get an injury, B, not just get an injury, they can do in a wrong way. And the habits are bad if you don't do in a good way. You easily get in a habit, but almost you never get away from those kind of habits. And you know, through this generation, and some younger, older guys were excellent shooters, but their technique was not good. But they could, on their own way, score because their habits, when they were young, when they didn't have a coach to teach them like they have today, like was Nenad, like was other guys, you know, they, like yourself, they start to do in a wrong technical way the things. Of course, if he scores 30 points per game, and you're a senior head coach, you have no choice. You have to play with him. You cannot change the shot or shooting form of some player in the middle of the season. You will destroy his confidence, his routine, his mechanics, and of course, you will destroy the winning record. Those kind of things. Same is with the jumps. I forgot to say, for example, I was shocked when I found out, like a Cooper test, for example, those jump rope, how many repetitions you have to, for the 1 minute. You probably never heard, neither me, but I found out that if you want to jump for 1 minute in a great shape, you have to have 210 jumps, which is 3.5 jumps per second. Well, I guess that's Michael Tyson and those kind of the guys who are doing jump rope like ordinary exercise. But I'm just giving you the numbers so they know. Maybe tomorrow you will have some player who would be a bench warmer, who would come to play 10 minutes and help you win the game. But one way or the other, the most important thing is that he knows the numbers. So you can, I always say to my players, I may not win the championship of the world with you, a cup of the UEFA or cup of the FIFA, etc. I will not win EuroLeague, but maybe some of you would go to the book like the best Cooper test runner, or like the best ball handler, or best free throw shooter. We can always develop some things, but we have to know the numbers. That's the bottom line, and we have to know sometimes the best workout for the players is rest. At least once per week, they have to have a rest, and sometimes they are more tired. If you see that something, give them 2 days. not do that every week. Don't do that every month. But sometimes 2 days of the break would give them chance to win the next game much easier than if you come to the gym and try to do the things, or in an indoor facility where you try to do any kind of the ball workout. That's the bottom line.
And let's say, for example, now I would love to ask from you that in some countries the basketball stopped, and in some countries the basketball is just now starting. What would be your approach? What you would do with these players where you stop the basketball because they must to keep in good shape? Then can't happen that they are just finishing and they are just waiting the upcoming season in August and in September. And what would be the approach with those players where is basketball just now starting and maybe will be the whole season only 2 months or 3 months, not like 6, 7 or more months? So what would be your approach in these two options?
They first have to know, do they have an indoor facility and how much they can use it. Beside indoor facility, they have to know what they can do on the outdoor facility. Outdoor facility, because of the breeding, because of the climate, because of the weather, could bring us many good and bad things. As I told you, one guy was a great fan of the Vladimir. So Dr. Kopritsa likes, whenever is a new warm weather, to let players go out and run in the wood. Wow, the running in the wood in March, end of the March in Belgrade, or end of the March in somewhere in Greece is not same, but especially not in over there in area where is Estonia, Lithuania, Latvia, Sweden. Over there in March is still big winter. So you cannot do same things. Or where I was in Africa, or Coach Dean, that's another song, another melody, another movie. What I would always like is that they have indoor facility shooting. Why? Because you're not dependable on the wind, you're not dependable on rain, so he can do some repetitions, shots in, some, how to say, layups, some ball handling, and of course, the best thing would be that they practice on the wood. That's the letter A. Letter B would be outdoor facility. What kind of outdoor we prefer? If they have a track and field, that's beautiful. But what if they have some bumpy road? What are they going to do there? What if they twist their ankle? So we have to see where they practice. The best thing for them would be to run on some grass, like a football field grass. But how many we have of those kind of facilities like opportunity? So I'm just paying attention about those little details, and you have to know how many times per week they can get to the indoor facility, how many to the outdoor, and of course, do they get any weight room? If they do weight room, I always say it's better that they do with their own weight, this kind of the fitness drills I sent to you, than they do by themselves or by some other not good expert, some, let's say, guy who is just a fanatic but doesn't do well. His thing to do in a technically wrong way, bench press, squat, they can hurt the back, they can hurt the shoulder, they can hurt the legs. Then, you lose your players. You need, for the weights, for the dumbbells, for the plates, for the bar, you need good behind.
Yes, you are right. I had, for example, the same problem in some countries that on what kind of ground we can run, what is in outdoor, and on that was depending how many days and how many trainings I will spend for running, because, how you said, players can be injured if we are not taking care about it. And my last question would be that what is your suggestion for young coaches? From where is the best to learn the basic rules for physical preparing? and from where they can get the most easiest the practical experience. Because let's say, for example, that my professor was Karalevich, and I sat between four eyes for him like professor. I am afraid that I'm so much ambition and I'm so much have enthusiasm, and my senior players will be injured. And he just said for me the next between four eyes, Hunor, do you know how many ankles I break in my career? So this is it, that you must through an experience to learn some bad things, and that is how you are becoming a more better and better coach. So what is your suggestion for young coaches, how they can learn the most easiest way to get good experience and to be successful in this part? Because this is not basketball coaching, but if we are not a fitness coach, we must to know a lot of details in this field.
Coach Karalevich is the best example because Coach Milivoje was also basketball coach and fitness coach. So his knowledge is absolutely great in that field. Professor Zimonjić was saying, coach and a fitness coach. Other guys are not playing basketball, they were doing track and field, they can also be good. In my opinion, the best advancement is first to see those people who are doing everyday surviving with their team, who are not blue chips coaches or blue chips players coaches, which means they work in Real Madrid, Barcelona, Duke, North Carolina, Michigan University, or Chicago Bulls. Coaches who have to do on their own. You have to be with them, but they're like a fireplace. If you too much close, you would burn yourself. You will never see those higher level of things, and you may forever stuck in that level. If you're too far away from them, you would get cold. You would get cold. You would get to the how to say, you would be out of picture, because you cannot just go with the best teams and the best players and the best conditions, because sometimes you may coach very low level mediocres, but you still have to perform. So I would go with experienced people who were going left and right, like Coach Dean, like other guys, who had to survive one night after another and to go back, coach again, and win a game again. Meanwhile, we have to visit once for a while, and you did a great thing for yourself in that basketball academy for European coaches. You have to go with the best coaches, such as Željko, such as other guys, and learn from them. Their conditioning coaches, I always like to talk, to ask, but there are some people don't like to talk. Come and watch my practice, and that's all what I'm giving you. You have to be ready for both, just to watch and to make your own conclusions, and to go to some people who would tell you, because they have to tell you the things you cannot see now. I cannot see now. I can just see when better coach than me tells me. Those kind of things are, part of our business. If we manage that, we have chance to develop the players and team, and we have chance to win.
Thank you for all of your useful information. I would love to thank for your time, and I would love to wish you great health and good luck for your project in Asia.
Thank you, Hunor. And just to let you know, I'm investing in you. One day when you become like Željko Obradović, take me to be your assistant, okay? I know you will do that.
It's a deal.
Say hi to your family and all the best. Bless you. Bye-bye.
All the best for you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.